Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you for a moment, because somebody in this room, somebody listening right now, needs to hear this with their whole spirit. Your comeback has already begun. You may not feel it yet. You may not see it yet. But just because you can't see something doesn't mean God isn't working on it. Most people don't realize this, but struggle is not a sign that something is wrong with your life. Struggle is a sign that something is changing. When things get uncomfortable, when pressure shows up, when it feels like everything is pushing against you, that is not life punishing you. That is life preparing you. Growth has a cost, and that cost is discomfort. If you were meant to stay the same, you wouldn't be facing what you're facing right now. Every level requires a new version of you. The problem is, the old version of you cannot go where God is trying to take you. So something has to be shaken. Something has to be challenged. Something has to stretch you beyond what feels safe and familiar. That's why it hurts. That's why it's confusing. That's why you question yourself. But the questioning is part of the transformation. You think the struggle means you're losing, but in reality, the struggle is proof that something inside you is being activated. You don't struggle when nothing is happening. You struggle when you're being pushed to grow. Nobody struggles at the bottom. Struggle happens on the way up. Elevation demands resistance. Look at how pressure works. Pressure doesn't destroy diamonds, it creates them. Without pressure, that diamond is just carbon. The pressure doesn't ruin it, it reveals what it was always capable of becoming. Your situation is doing the same thing to you. It's revealing strength you didn't even know you had. It's pulling discipline out of you. It's forcing you to mature, to think differently, to move differently. Sometimes your struggle is not about what you're going through. It's about what you're letting go of. Old habits, old mindsets, old relationships, old excuses. Growth requires separation, and separation hurts. You can't evolve while holding on to everything that once felt comfortable. Something has to be released so something greater can be received. You keep asking for a breakthrough, but you don't realize the breakdown came first for a reason. That breakdown humbled you. It slowed you down. It made you pray differently. It made you listen more. It made you stop relying on people and start relying on purpose. That wasn't an accident. That was alignment. A seed doesn't complain when it's buried because it understands the burial is temporary and the growth is permanent. The darkness doesn't mean death. It means development. You feel hidden right now, overlooked, maybe even forgotten, but hidden seasons are necessary. Roots grow in the dark. Strength forms where nobody is watching. Your struggle is not random. It is specific. It is designed to correct your direction, strengthen your character, and prepare your spirit. If you were not capable of handling what you're facing, it wouldn't be in front of you. Life doesn't give heavy battles to weak people. It gives them to people who are becoming strong enough to carry more. Stop treating this season like a setback. It's a setup. What feels heavy today will feel meaningful tomorrow. One day you'll look back and realize that the struggle was the moment everything started changing. That was the moment your patience grew, your discipline sharpened, your vision became clearer. You didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of your comeback. Failure has a way of making you feel like the story is over, like the door has been closed and locked behind you. It convinces you that one mistake, one loss, or one wrong decision defines who you are forever. But failure is not an ending. It is a pause designed to teach you something you couldn't learn any other way. If success came without lessons, you wouldn't be able to hold it when it arrived. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or ability. They fail because they quit too soon or because they never learned how to respond when things didn't go their way. Failure exposes weaknesses, yes, but it also reveals potential. It shows you where you need to grow, what needs to be strengthened, and what must change before you can move forward. That's why failure often feels personal. It touches your pride, your confidence, and your identity. But it's not there to destroy you. It's there to reshape you. When you fall, life gives you a choice. You can sit in regret, replaying what you should have done, or you can use that moment as instruction. Regret keeps you stuck in the past. Instruction pushes you toward the future. Every failure carries information. It tells you what didn't work, who wasn't meant to go with you, and which version of you needs to be left behind. Failure also teaches humility. It strips away ego and forces you to be honest with yourself. It reminds you that you don't have everything figured out, and that's not a weakness. That's growth. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet are not those who never failed, but those who failed publicly and still had the courage to stand back up. What people don't talk about is how failure prepares your mindset. Without failure, success would make you careless. You would take things for granted. You would stop listening. Failure trains you to pay attention. It makes you disciplined. It makes you patient. It teaches you to value progress instead of shortcuts. Many people allow failure to silence them. They stop trying because they don't want to be embarrassed again. They stop dreaming because disappointment hurts too much. But silence after failure is dangerous because that's where doubt grows. That's where fear convinces you to play small. Failure is only permanent if you accept it as final. The truth is, failure often shows up right before a breakthrough. It tests how badly you want what you say you want. It asks you if your commitment was real or just emotional. Anyone can be motivated when things are easy. Commitment is proven when things fall apart and you still show up. Failure also refines your purpose. It removes paths that were never meant for you and redirects you toward the ones that are. What feels like rejection is often protection. What feels like loss is often alignment. Failure clears space for something better, but only if you're willing to learn instead of quit. You are not your worst moment. You are not your biggest mistake. You are not defined by what went wrong. You are defined by what you choose to do next. Failure is not proof that you can't win. It's proof that you tried, and trying is always the first requirement for success. If you're still standing after failing, that means the lesson isn't over and the story isn't finished. Failure didn't come to end you. It came to prepare you for what's next. Consistency is one of the most misunderstood forces behind success. People admire talent, celebrate luck, and chase shortcuts, but very few are willing to respect the quiet power of showing up every single day. Consistency doesn't look exciting. It doesn't bring immediate applause. Most of the time, it feels boring, repetitive, and unnoticed. But consistency is what separates those who dream from those who build. Talent can open a door, but consistency keeps you in the room. There are countless gifted people who never reach their potential because they stop when things get hard or slow. They rely on motivation, and motivation is emotional. It comes and goes. Consistency is a decision. It's choosing to work even when you don't feel inspired, even when results are invisible, even when nobody is encouraging you. Progress is rarely dramatic. Most growth happens quietly, in small steps that don't seem important at the time. One day of effort won't change your life, but repeated effort over time will. Consistency compounds. What feels insignificant today becomes powerful when it's repeated without quitting. That's how habits are built. That's how skills are mastered. That's how confidence is earned. Consistency also builds trust, especially with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you strengthen your self-belief. When you break promises to yourself, you weaken it. Confidence doesn't come from big wins. It comes from knowing that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. Consistency turns discipline into identity. Life will test your consistency by making things uncomfortable. Results will come slower than you expect. People will pass you. Doubt will whisper that your effort isn't worth it. This is where most people stop, not because they can't continue, but because they expect progress to always feel rewarding. Real progress often feels frustrating before it feels fulfilling. Consistency teaches patience. It forces you to accept that real success takes time. In a world obsessed with instant results, consistency is a form of faith. It's believing that the work you're doing today will matter tomorrow, even if you can't see the evidence yet. That belief is what keeps you moving forward when motivation fades. Consistency also protects you from emotional decision making. When you commit to a process instead of chasing feelings, you stop quitting on hard days and overworking on good days. You create balance. You learn to pace yourself. This prevents burnout and helps you last long enough to actually win. People often quit because they compare their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Consistency requires focus. When you stay consistent, you stop measuring your progress against others and start measuring it against who you were yesterday. That shift alone can change your entire mindset. Even when you fail, consistency gives you something to return to. One bad day doesn't destroy progress if you're consistent. One mistake doesn't erase growth if you keep going. Consistency allows room for imperfection without giving up completely. Success doesn't belong to the most talented, the smartest, or the luckiest. It belongs to the most consistent, the ones who stayed when it was hard, the ones who worked when it was quiet, the ones who didn't quit when no one was watching. Over time, consistency becomes your advantage, and slowly, without you even realizing it, it carries you further than talent ever could. Silence, discipline, and faith are three forces that work quietly, but when combined, they accelerate transformation in ways that noise, shortcuts, and impatience never can. Most people underestimate silence because they confuse it with weakness. They think silence means you have nothing to say or nothing to prove. In reality, silence is often a sign of strength. It means you are no longer seeking validation from people who don't control your destiny. It means you're focused. Silence protects your energy. Every time you explain your plans, defend your decisions, or argue with doubters, you leak energy. That energy could have been invested into building, improving, and growing. When you move in silence, you give people less to criticize and more to be surprised by. Silence keeps distractions away and allows clarity to grow. It sharpens your focus and strengthens your resolve. Discipline is what fills the space that silence creates. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when emotions say otherwise. It's choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about respect. Respect for your future. Respect for your goals. Respect for the life you say you want. Without discipline, motivation becomes unreliable and dreams stay theoretical. Discipline shapes your daily habits, and your habits shape your destiny. Small disciplined actions repeated daily create massive change over time. Waking up when you don't feel like it. Staying consistent when results are slow. Saying no to distractions that feel good now, but cost you later. Discipline trains your mind to stay in control instead of being controlled by circumstances. Faith is what keeps you disciplined when results are delayed. Faith doesn't mean everything will be easy. Faith means you keep moving even when the path isn't clear. It means trusting the process even when progress feels invisible. Faith allows you to work without immediate reward, knowing that what you're building is bigger than what you can see right now. Faith is not passive. It's active belief backed by action. It's showing up when doubt is loud. It's staying patient when timing feels unfair. Faith anchors you when fear tries to pull you backward. Without faith, discipline becomes exhausting. Without discipline, faith becomes wishful thinking. Together, they create momentum. These three forces also protect you emotionally. Silence keeps you from reacting to every opinion. Discipline keeps you from making decisions based on temporary feelings. Faith keeps you from losing hope during difficult seasons. When life tests you, these qualities keep you steady instead of shaken. People who master silence stop announcing their next move. They let results speak. People who master discipline stop waiting for the perfect moment. They create momentum through action. People who master faith stop panicking during setbacks. They understand that delay is part of preparation. Growth often requires isolation. Not because you're better than others, but because you're building something fragile. Seeds grow best underground, away from noise and interference. Your silence is your underground season. Your discipline is your daily watering. Your faith is your belief that growth is happening even when nothing has broken the surface yet. When you combine silence, discipline, and faith, you stop needing approval. You stop rushing the process. You stop doubting yourself every time things get hard. You become grounded. You move with intention. You trust yourself more because you've proven to yourself that you can stay consistent without applause. These qualities don't bring instant recognition, but they bring lasting results. Loud moves fade quickly. Quiet progress lasts longer. What you build with silence, discipline, and faith cannot be easily shaken because it was forged without shortcuts, without noise, and without quitting. Pain has a way of changing you in ways comfort never could. When something breaks you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, it doesn't just hurt in the moment, it reshapes how you see the world and how you see yourself. Most people wish they could erase their painful experiences, but the truth is the very thing that hurt you is often the thing that built the strength you were missing. Pain is not pleasant, but it is purposeful when you allow it to teach instead of destroy. When life breaks you, it forces you to slow down and reflect. It makes you confront parts of yourself you ignored when everything was going well. Weak boundaries, poor decisions, misplaced trust, unrealistic expectations, and unhealed wounds all come to the surface during painful seasons. This exposure feels uncomfortable, but awareness is the first step toward growth. You can't strengthen what you refuse to acknowledge. Pain also strips away illusions. It shows you who is really there for you and who was only present for convenience. It reveals what truly matters and what was never essential. Through pain, priorities shift. You stop chasing things that drain you and start protecting things that give you peace. This clarity is a form of strength that only comes through experience. What broke you also taught you resilience. Before the pain, you may not have known how strong you were because you never had to be. Pain demands endurance. It forces you to stand even when you feel weak. Each time you survive a difficult moment, something inside you hardens in the right way. Not cold, not bitter, but solid. You become less fragile and more grounded. Pain teaches discipline. After being hurt, you move more carefully. You think before you act. You choose your words with intention. You stop giving everyone access to your energy. This is not fear, it is wisdom. You learn that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. Strength is not loud aggression, it is controlled response. Pain also deepens empathy. Once you've been broken, you become more understanding of others. You listen more. You judge less. You recognize silent battles in people because you've fought your own. This emotional intelligence becomes a powerful form of strength that improves your relationships and your leadership. One of the hardest lessons pain teaches is patience. Healing does not happen overnight. Strength is built slowly, layer by layer. Pain teaches you to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. This ability to endure without quitting becomes one of your greatest assets in life. It allows you to stay calm under pressure and composed during uncertainty. Pain also forces you to redefine success. Before, success may have been about money, approval, or recognition. After pain, success becomes peace, stability, and purpose. You stop trying to impress people who don't understand your journey. You focus on building a life that feels right, not just one that looks good. What broke you also taught you self-reliance. When support disappeared, you learned how to stand on your own. You discovered inner resources you didn't know existed. This independence strengthens your confidence because you know you can survive even when things fall apart. The strength pain builds is not obvious from the outside. People may see you calmer, quieter, and more reserved, but inside you are stronger than ever. You've been tested. You've been stretched. You've been reshaped. The pain didn't weaken you. It refined you. It prepared you for a level of responsibility, growth, and success that the old version of you could not handle. There comes a moment in every person's life when quitting feels like the most reasonable option. You're tired, disappointed, worn down by repeated setbacks, and questioning whether the effort is still worth it. In that moment, quitting disguises itself as relief. It promises rest, peace, and an escape from pressure. But what it really offers is regret, because the moment you refuse to quit, something powerful shifts inside you. That decision, quiet and unseen, is where your comeback truly begins. Refusing to quit doesn't mean you aren't exhausted. It means you're courageous enough to keep going despite the exhaustion. Strength is not the absence of fatigue. It's the ability to move forward while carrying it. Every time you choose not to quit, you build endurance. And endurance is what separates temporary effort from lasting success. Most people quit not because they can't continue, but because progress doesn't look the way they expected. They imagine success as a straight line, but real growth is messy, slow, and unpredictable. When results take longer, doubt creeps in. Doubt whispers that maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you missed your chance. Maybe it's too late. But doubt is loudest right before a breakthrough. It shows up to test your commitment. Refusing to quit rewires your mindset. You stop seeing obstacles as stop signs and start seeing them as instructions. Each challenge teaches you how to adapt, adjust, and improve. Quitting robs you of that wisdom. Staying gives you experience, and experience sharpens judgment. Over time, this mental toughness becomes one of your greatest strengths. When you refuse to quit, you begin to trust yourself more. You prove to yourself that you are reliable, that you can endure discomfort, that you can survive uncertainty. This self-trust builds confidence that no one can take away. Confidence earned through perseverance is different from confidence given through praise. It is deeper, quieter, and unshakable. Refusing to quit also changes how you handle failure. Failure no longer feels like proof that you can't succeed. It becomes feedback. You stop taking setbacks personally and start taking them seriously. You learn what works, what doesn't, and what needs improvement. This shift turns mistakes into tools instead of wounds. There will be moments when refusing to quit means standing alone. People may stop believing before you do. Support may fade. Applause may disappear. This isolation can feel heavy, but it is also refining. It forces you to clarify your purpose. When no one is watching, your reasons must be strong enough to carry you forward. That clarity strengthens commitment. Refusing to quit teaches patience. You learn to respect timing instead of fighting it. You realize that rushing the process often weakens the result. Patience allows growth to settle deeply instead of forming shallow success. What takes time tends to last longer. There is also a spiritual strength that comes from refusing to quit. It humbles you. It makes you reflective. It pushes you to rely on something bigger than your emotions. You learn to move forward even when confidence is low, even when clarity is missing. This reliance builds inner stability. When you refuse to quit, your past struggles gain meaning. The pain you endured stops feeling wasted. It becomes part of your foundation. Every hard season adds weight to your character. That character will later support opportunities you are not yet ready to handle. Quitting would have spared you pain, but it would have robbed you of depth. One day, you will look back at the moment you almost quit and realize that was the turning point. Not because everything changed immediately, but because you did. You became someone who doesn't retreat under pressure, someone who doesn't fold when tested, someone who understands that persistence is power. Refusing to quit doesn't guarantee instant success. What it guarantees is growth, resilience, and progress. And progress, no matter how slow, always beats standing still. The moment you choose to keep going, despite fear, fatigue, and frustration, you step into the beginning of your comeback.